Welcome to our story world, where every tale is filled with mystery, emotion, and lessons that linger long after the video ends. If you love powerful African stories, supernatural mysteries, and powerful journeys that pull you in from the first word, you've found your home. Subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications, like, share, and comment to join our growing family of story lovers. Your support keeps these stories alive, and there's so much more waiting for you. In a small forgotten village hidden between red earth roads and old whispering forests, there lived a quiet young man named Obi Okore. The village was called Umudike, a place known more for its silence than its noise. At sunset, smoke from cooking fires danced lazily into the sky. Chickens scratched in the dirt. Old women hummed ancient songs while pounding yam, and the wind passed through tall grasses like it was carrying secrets from the ancestors. Obi was not like the other young men. While his friends chased girls, drank palm wine, and dreamt of running away to the city, Obi stayed close to home. He cared for his aging mother, farmed a small piece of land, and fixed broken doors for widows without asking for payment. People said, "That boy's heart is too clean for this world." And maybe it was true. Yet, there was one heaviness in Obi's life: he was alone. All his mates were married. Children filled their homes with laughter. But his own small hut remained quiet at night, echoing with nothing but the sound of crickets and his own breathing. Still, Obi never complained. One evening, as the sun bled across the sky like a wounded animal, Obi sat under the tall Iroko tree at the edge of the village, a tree believed to be older than memory itself. The elders always warned, never stay around the Iroko after dark. Spirits gather there, but Obi was not afraid. He rested his tired back against its giant roots and whispered into the air, "If the spirits truly live here, tell them I am tired of being alone." The wind suddenly stopped. The world became too quiet. And somewhere far in the forest, something answered. From that night, Abina began to change. He stopped eating. Sleep avoided him. A strange fever burned through his body at night, making him tremble like a leaf in harmattan wind. The village herbalist, Mama Ezenwa, came with leaves, roots, and bitter drinks. Nothing worked. Priests prayed, elders poured libations, his mother tied protection charms on his wrists. Still, the illness deepened. One night, with the moon sitting high like an unblinking eye, Obi called his mother to his bedside. "Mama," he whispered weakly, "if I do not wake tomorrow, do not fight it. Some paths are chosen before we are born." Tears streamed down the old woman's face. "Do not say such words, my son. You will marry. You will give me grandchildren." But Obi only smiled. A sad, peaceful smile. Before the cock crowed the next morning, Obi was gone. A strange calm rested upon his face, as if he had simply stepped into a deep sleep. The whole village gathered. Women beat their chests and wailed, "Young bone in the hands of death." Drummers played the sorrowful rhythm reserved for those who leave too soon. He was buried beside the great Iroko tree, the very place he had spoken to the unknown. As the last shovel of earth fell, a cold wind swept through the gathered crowd. The candle flames flickered wildly. And for a fleeting second, just a second, the carved wood of his grave marker trembled. But no one noticed, except the night birds. Darkness wrapped the village. The mourners returned home. Silence fell over Umudike. Yet beneath the soil, something was stirring. The air grew heavy. The ground above Obi's grave turned icy cold. A whisper rose from the earth, so faint it could dissolve into nothing, yet so real it shook the unseen world. "You are not finished yet." The soil shifted, not violently, not frighteningly, but as if something beneath it had simply stood up. Far away, in a town he had never visited, a dog howled. A candle went out. A man passing on a lonely road felt a cold presence brush past him. Because at that moment, Obi's spirit stepped out of the village of the dead, and began walking toward a life that should not exist. Toward a town where no one knew him, where the living could not recognize his face. where fate was waiting with open hands. The town of Umoji never slept. Even at night, its streets breathed with noise, the rumble of old buses, the cry of tired traders, the distant music of roadside bars mixing with the laughter and anger of strangers passing in the dark. For some, the town was a land of opportunity. For others, it was a place that swallowed dreams whole. And for Amara, it had become a prison. She had arrived there when she was just 8 years old, clinging to the hand of a distant uncle who promised her mother, "She will go to school. She will live better here." But it had all been a lie. Instead of school, there were endless chores. Instead of kindness, there were insults and beating. Instead of love, there was only fear. Years passed, and Amara grew thin, quiet, and forgotten inside a house that was never truly hers. Her madam treated her as less than human. She woke before the sun, washed dishes until her fingers cracked, scrubbed floors until her knees turned to stone. And still it was never enough. One evening, while hurrying to wash clothes, her tired hand slipped. A glass cup shattered on the floor. The sound was small, but the anger it unleashed was thunder. "You foolish animal," her madam screamed, "is this how you repay me?" Before Amara could speak, her bag of clothes was thrown into the mud. The gate was flung open, and the words that destroyed everything were spoken, "Get out of my house. I never want to see your face again." The heavy gate slammed shut behind her. Just like that, Amara had no home, no money, no family, no direction, only darkness. Rain began to fall, slow at first, then heavy, soaking her thin dress, her hair, her skin. She wandered the roadside, dodging the headlights of cars, each passing face a stranger that did not care. Her stomach growled, her body trembled, her eyes burned with unshed tears. Finally, she collapsed near a closed shop, pulling her knees to her chest. She whispered to the empty night, "God, if I die here, no one will even know my name." The wind answered, stirring the dust around her like a restless spirit. Then, a shadow stopped in front of her. A man's voice spoke gently, "Why is someone as young as you sitting on the road like this?" She slowly lifted her head and saw him. He wore simple clothes, a plain shirt, dusty shoes, but his eyes were different. Too deep, too knowing, almost like they had already seen death and returned from it. "I have nowhere to go," she murmured. For a moment, Obi felt something twist inside his chest. Pain recognized pain. "Then you will come with me," he said simply. "No one should be alone in this world." He bought her food that night. The first warm meal she had eaten in days. As she ate, she looked at him closely. "What is your name?" There was a pause, barely noticeable, but real. "Obi," he replied. The name had once been carved on a grave. But here, it lived again on his tongue. "Do you live here in the town?" she asked. Another pause. "For now, yes. But not that near. I will lodge you in a hotel this night, then let's see what tomorrow holds." He helped her find a small job at a roadside restaurant. He checked on her every day. Sometimes he would bring fruits. Sometimes just silence and company. Amara did not know where he went at night. She never asked. There were rumors among the workers. That man does not behave like others. He never goes home drunk. He never flirts. He just appears. But to Amara, he was a miracle sent to save her. Slowly, her fear turned to trust. Her trust to affection. Her affection to love. And in Obi's heart, a heart that should no longer exist, love bloomed again, dangerous, forbidden, and beautiful. Yet sometimes, when the wind blew at dusk, he would freeze. Because for a brief moment, he could smell his village soil. Hear his mother's voice. Feel the weight of the earth that had covered him. And he knew, he was living on borrowed time. One evening, as they sat at the river bank, the sky painted in orange and purple, Amara spoke softly, "If I ever have a home, I want it to be with you." He looked at her, long and deep. A thousand untold truths hid in his silence. "Then you already have one," he answered. And without ceremony, without bride price, Without witnesses, a bond stronger than paper or ritual tied them together. Two lost souls, one from the world of the living, one from the world of the dead, and neither of them yet understood the price they would soon have to pay. Love found them in simple moments. A shared bowl of rice after a long day, soft laughter near the river, quiet walks through dusty streets as the town lights flickered on one by one. For the first time in their lives, both Obi and Amara felt like they belonged somewhere. They rented a small, narrow room at the edge of Umoji town. The walls were thin, the roof leaked when it rained, but to them, it was a palace. Because it was theirs. At night, Amara would rest her head on his chest, listening to the slow, steady beat of a heart that, in truth, had once stopped beating. Sometimes, as she slept, Obi watched her face closely. He studied the way her lashes touched her cheeks, the way her lips parted in gentle dreams, the peaceful rise and fall of her chest, and a fear would crawl quietly into him. She is loving a man who should be in the ground, but he pushed the thought away each time. He wanted to be human. He wanted a future. He wanted this love to be real. So he held on to her as though love alone could keep him alive. One morning, Amara stood in their tiny doorway, her eyes shining like the morning dew. Obi, she smiled, her hand trembling slightly. I have news. He looked up at her. I am going to have a baby. For a few seconds, the world stood still. A man who had already died was about to become a father. Emotion struck him like thunder. Joy, fear, confusion, hope, all at once. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly the moment almost broke her breath. My child, he whispered, our child. That night he stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft sounds of her breathing. His mind was not resting. Can the dead truly have children? What kind of life would the child live? What happens when she discovers the truth? Outside, the wind rattled the loose tin roof like restless fingers. And somewhere far away, a dog howled long and deep. As Amara's belly grew, strange things started to happen. The mirror sometimes refused to show Obi's reflection. Electrical bulbs blew whenever he touched them. Cold air surrounded his body in warm weather. Cats hissed when he passed. The baby kicked violently whenever he spoke too long. Amara noticed. Why is the room cold when you are near sometimes? She once asked. He brushed it off with a gentle laugh. Maybe I just carry night inside me. She laughed too, thinking he was joking. But deep inside, a quiet dread wrapped around her heart. And sometimes in her dreams, she heard voices whisper, he does not belong, yet love blinded her ears. Despite the fear growing inside him, Obi prepared for fatherhood with an unusual devotion. He carved a small wooden cradle from leftover planks behind a market stall. He sang old village songs to Amara's belly, songs he didn't even remember learning. He gathered coins in a tin box for the baby's future. When Amara asked about his villager parents, Obi will only smiled and said, they are far, and tied to old pains. Amara didn't push further, because she had known pain too. On a stormy night, with thunder tearing the sky apart, Amara went into labor. The rain poured like the heavens were crying and celebrating at the same time. A neighbor woman assisted her. And before dawn, a baby boy entered the world. The moment the child cried out, the thunder stopped. A strange calm filled the air. Even the neighbor whispered, this child is not ordinary. When Obi held his son, his hands trembled. The baby stared up at him, not like a newborn, but like someone who recognized him. Tears rolled down his cheeks. My son, I have crossed worlds for you, but as joy filled the room, a shadow fell over the doorway. Invisible, silent, watching, waiting, for the moment truth would return and collect its debt. A few days later, Amara, full of joy and pride, looked at her husband and said, my mother must come. She must see her grandson and meet you, so we can plan how you'll visit my people and pay my bride price. At those words, his smile froze. Just for a second, but she noticed. Obi, why do you look afraid? He forced a soft expression and replied, I am not afraid, I am just thinking about the future. But inside, panic was rising. If her mother came, someone might recognize him. Someone would know his face belongs to the dead, and the world he had borrowed would end. Yet there was no escaping destiny. He nodded slowly and said, "Call her." And Amara reached out to one of her old-time village friend whom she saw once at Umoji Market Square where they exchanged contact. Immediately she scrolled her phone and bring out the number. The moment she made the phone call, a cold wind passed through the room. The baby suddenly went quiet and the wooden cradle creaked by itself, a silent warning. But love, foolish and beautiful, paid no attention. The day Amara's mother was to arrive, the air felt wrong. The sky over Umoji was dull and heavy, like it was holding its breath. The birds were unusually silent. Even the market near their house seemed quieter, as though the town itself sensed something powerful was about to happen. Inside the small room, Amara moved around with nervous excitement. She swept the floor twice. She arranged the baby's clothes again and again. She cooked her best meal, jollof rice with a little piece of chicken. She had saved the money for days. "My mother will be so happy," she smiled. "She has never even seen where I live." Obi sat quietly on the bed, watching her. His hands were cold, his throat felt dry. Something deep within him already knew this was the beginning of the end. Hours before the visit, Amara had done something simple, yet fatefully powerful. She picked up a small framed photograph from their table, the only picture Obi had ever taken in town, and hung it on the wall beside the bed. "So my mother can see her son-in-law, even before he meets her," she laughed. For a brief second, Obi's eyes widened. But he said nothing. He only looked away. That picture now rested like a silent witness on the wall, waiting. When the knock finally came, Amara rushed to the door. "Mama." She embraced her mother, older now, with lines of struggle etched on her face and silver threads running through her hair. Tears filled the woman's eyes as she held her daughter. "My child, I searched for you for many years." Inside the room, the baby began to cry. "And this must be my grandchild," she smiled softly. But as she stepped further into the house, her eyes lifted slowly to the wall. And she saw the photograph. Her body stiffened, her breath stopped, the blood drained from her face. It was a face she knew too well. A face buried in the red earth many years ago. A face she had mourned beside her old friend in a distant village. The only son of her closest companion, Obi Okore, dead, buried, gone, and now, hanging on a wall in her daughter's house. "No, this is not possible." Her lips trembled. Her hands shook, but she forced her face into calm. She said nothing, not yet. She wanted to be certain. They sat and spoke about ordinary things. The baby, the town, the struggles of life. But the woman barely heard her daughter's words. All she could see was that picture. And all she could hear were funeral drums from a past that refused to stay buried. Soon, the sun began to set. The room grew darker, and the air grew heavier. Amara smiled at the doorway. He should be back any moment now. The moment the words left her mouth, a cold wind rushed into the room, even though the windows were closed. The candle flame bent sideways as if something invisible had entered. Then, the door slowly opened, and Obi walked in. The two worlds collide when Amara's mother's eyes met his face. Time shattered. For a moment, everything stopped breathing. Then, in a voice filled with both fear and certainty, she whispered, "Obi." The sound of his name, spoken by someone from his buried world, hit him like fire. His body froze. His eyes widened in shock. "You," he murmured, "you know me." The baby began to scream violently. The lamp burst and went dark. The room dropped into icy coldness. The woman staggered backward. "You died. I stood at your grave. I watched them cover you with earth." The word died echoed like thunder. Obi looked down at his hands, at his chest, at the floor beneath his feet. For the first time, he fully understood. He did not belong among the living. And when he looked back up, he was already beginning to fade. His body grew pale, transparent, like smoke against darkness. He reached for Amara. I only wanted to love. I only wanted a life. Then, in a whisper softer than air, he said, "Take care of my son." And right before their terrified eyes, Obi vanished. No sound, no trace, no warmth, only a cold, empty space where he once stood. Amara screamed, a loud, broken cry of pure terror. She clutched her baby to her chest as her whole body shook. Where is he? Obi, Obi, Obi. But there was no answer. Only silence. The mother grabbed her arm urgently. We must leave here now. They ran into the night, barefoot, breathless, hearts pounding, as if the very air behind them was chasing them. They did not even pack anything. Fear became their only guide. And behind them in that little room, the picture on the wall slowly slid to the floor and shattered. And for the first time since his burial, Obi's spirit finally left the town he never belonged to. But something remained behind, a living child, a proof, a bridge between two worlds. They did not stop running until their legs could run no more. Down dark streets, across empty roads, into the arms of night. Amara clutched her baby to her chest, her heart hammering like a drum of war. The child had gone quiet, as if he already understood that the world had changed. Behind them, Umoji slept. But inside Amara, nothing would ever sleep again. Her mother held her tightly as tears rolled down her cheeks. My daughter, she whispered, the man you loved, returned from the grave. And the words shattered every remaining piece of reality. At first light the mother Mama Amara summoned courage and went back to the house to bring the broken frame of proof before they left the town. They boarded a dusty old bus that groaned down the broken village road, cutting through forests and forgotten paths. Every bump of the road reminded Amara that everything had been real, his touch, his smile, his love. And yet, he was already dead long before he met her. Her mind fought with itself. Then who was he? What was loving me in the night? What kind of spirit gave me a child? She lowered her eyes to the baby's face. The face looked peaceful, but in his features, she could now see Obi. The same lips, the same brows, the same deep, mysterious eyes. Her heart broke all over again. When they reached the village, whispers spread like fire in dry grass. Is that not Amara, the daughter of Adaku? Is that a child in her arms? Who is the father? They walked directly to the compound of the Okori family, Obi's home. A house that had not known laughter since his burial. His mother sat outside on a wooden stool, staring at the same empty road she had stared at for years. Waiting for a son who had never returned. When Amara and her mother Adaku entered the compound, the old woman raised her tired eyes and froze. The child in Amara's arms stared back. Then, the baby smiled. A deep, familiar dimple forming on his tiny cheek. The old woman gasped, Chimoo, Chimoo, Chimoo Obi. Her knees trembled as she stood up slowly. That face, she whispered, that face is my son's face. Amara's heart pounded. Mama, he is the one, Amara cried through tears. He came to me, he loved me, he vanished in front of our eyes. The gathered family members laughed nervously. How can a dead man father a child? Has the girl gone mad? Then Amara's mother reached into her bag and brought out the broken framed photograph. The very image hanging on the wall. She handed it to Obi's mother. A loud cry tore through the compound. This is my son. This is Obi. Silence fell on the entire village. Even the air seemed to freeze. The laughter disappeared. Only fear remained. The village elders were called. They sat in a circle, the child laid carefully in the center on a white cloth. The old priestess bent down to look at him. The baby did not cry. He simply looked up at the sky and giggled. The priestess stood up slowly. This child walks between worlds, she announced. But he carries no darkness. The people murmured in shock. He should not exist. He is a spirit child. But then the priestess raised her hand. No, his father returned only to correct an unfinished destiny. This child is not cursed. He is a blessing sealed by death itself. A hush of wonder fell upon them. Obi's mother crawled to the baby and held him tightly. Grave or no grave, this is my grandchild. And for the first time since Obi died, she smiled. That night, as Amara slept in the old village house, she dreamed of Obi. He stood beneath the moonlight, no longer pale or broken. He was whole, peaceful, smiling. I am going back, he said softly. My time among the living has ended. Tears rolled down her sleeping face. Was your love real? He stepped closer and touched her forehead gently. It was the truest thing I ever knew. He glanced toward the baby sleeping beside her. Raise him with love, and when he asks about me, don't tell him I was a ghost, tell him I crossed death for him. Then, slowly, he walked backward into the light, until he became one with the moon. Years passed. The child grew strong, wise beyond his age, kind beyond the world's cruelty. Whenever he walked through the village, the wind whispered gently around him. And old people would say, that is the boy whose father loved him even from the grave. They built a small tree beside Obi's tomb, a tree that bloomed every season, defying nature. Until today, the elders still whisper, love is stronger than death. And sometimes, on quiet nights, a man's shadow is still seen walking beside the child, protecting him, smiling, at a life he once crossed worlds to create. Thank you for watching this story. If it moved you, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment to tell us what you think. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. There are many more mysteries, emotions, and life lessons coming, and you don't want to miss a single one. Stay tuned, and let the stories carry you beyond the ordinary.